Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the Dr. Vibe Show, saying you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles and you're a solution for someone's problem. And as always, we like to say that you're watching the Dr. Vibe Show. I'm your host and producer. I'm also host and co-producer of the Good Men Project show, which is on monthly at the Good Men Project. And you can also catch some of my shows on the Good Men Project and also at the Black Life Coaches Facebook fan page. We have a returning friend here tonight, our good friend Dale Thomas Vaughn. He is the leadership editor of the Good Men Project, and he also is, God, doing so many things. He's part of a organization called the Global Center for Healthy Masculinities. And we've got him on the show tonight. And I like this because he just had a new article posted, the Good Men Project, and we're going to be the first to talk about it. Even before someone gives a comment on it, we've got it going on. So Dale, thanks so much for spending some time with us tonight.
Sure, I like to bring you shiny new things.
There you go. And if you check out the article, it's actually the links in the post. The image is so cool. Where'd you get that image?
Oh, I grabbed it off of Flickr, and actually you're reminding me I have to go back and make sure I attributed that correctly with a link and everything. But
Okay.
you'll be able to find it on there. After we're done, I'll make sure that's corrected.
No problem. It's all good. What have you been up to since the last time we had a chance to share together?
Boy, I'm writing a book. I'm continuing to expand my program about mentoring men, and I've actually got a preview call next Saturday. I've been getting I do work with men specifically, but I get a lot of conversation from women asking questions like, how do I help my man without sounding naggy or without being all up in his business? And I was hearing that question so much recently, I decided that I would do a call specifically for women about that subject. So next Saturday, I guess 11 a.m. Pacific time, you can find me at, I'm going to be at empowermentorship.com, and that's part of what I'm doing.
Good stuff. I forgot to mention the Empower Mentorship. So, hey, Dale made sure you got my back and mentioning he has so many things going on. Sorry, I forgot you. I hope you do forgive me.
Oh, I do, of course. You know, I've also been playing some dodgeball. I don't know if you can see that. So there's.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we want to chat about this article, 3 Tips to Resolve Those 2014 Resolutions Before the Holidays. And before we get into the article itself or the post itself, what was the impetus for you to write this article?
We're about 8 weeks out from the end of the year, and I know everybody starts thinking downhill, you know, like we're heading into the holiday season and there's family obligations and everybody's got flights booked if they're going out of town and all that stuff that's sort of logistical starts getting into play and all your weekends get booked. And I thought, boy, there's still 2 months of the year left, but it feels like it's almost over, you know, it feels like it's really close to over. But there's really enough time in 2 months to get a lot of really good things accomplished. And I looked back at my resolutions and I thought, you know, I've done a pretty good job of getting them done this year, but I want to, you know, I want to bang out a couple more. And I think a lot of people can forget about those resolutions. They're so far in the past now. The next January is closer than the last January was. So,
True.
so yeah, I just wanted to address that and give people some opportunities to think about their resolutions again and maybe drag those back up. We make those in good faith, and I want to give people an opportunity to rethink them.
Excellent. One of the things I can certainly confess about 2014, it's gone by so fast.
It has. There's no doubt.
Like, wow. Like, and I'm saying, you know, it's been one of those years that's gone by so fast. Like where I live here in Toronto, the beginning of 2014, it never seemed that it was going to end. The winter was so long and drawn out, but it just gone by so fast.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's an age thing, a mindset, but I'm glad to say that you're younger than myself, that you're seeing it's going by fast, so I don't feel so bad now.
I think the world might be spinning a little bit faster.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hear you. I hear. We try to keep up, and like I've lost my hair trying to keep up. You still. It's all good. It's all good. Well, let's look at the article itself. The first point you wanted to chat about, or you put out in your article, was sort out the work-life balance, and this is a lifelong journey. What do you want to chat about in regards or expand on from what you've written in about this subject?
You know, one of the things we talk about a lot is that work-life balance. And I think especially when work is imbalanced, we talk about it a lot. But what happens when life gets imbalanced? I think we don't really think about that. Like, what happens when your family is more important than work, which is what happens at the end of the year, I think. And that's just as stressful. You know, it's when you pack in more to do than the time allows, you've got an imbalance going on. And so from either side, I think it's easy to say, well, I'd quit work and just do my regular life outside of it. But the truth is, we don't live in that world. So what I wanted to talk to people about was creating, and I like to call it the to-do list versus the to-be list, right? So we all have to-do lists, the task list, and the resolutions are basically the beginning of that task list for your year, right? These are the things I'm going to go and do this year. But why? You know, why do you want to do those things? So what I do is I actually, on a sheet of paper on the left side, I put my to-do list. And on the right side, I put to be at the top. And I try to figure out what it is I'm trying to be by doing the things on my task list. And I find that usually that gets me to an understanding of what is really my priority. For instance, one of the things that was on my to-do list, on my resolutions list this past year, was to get to inbox 0. Elusive inbox 0. Emails down to nothing. All sorted and all archived and all done the correct way. And the truth is, what is that getting me? And I thought about the to-be goal there is to be more relaxed. Like, I don't have to wake up in the morning and worry about the hundreds of emails sitting in my inbox. And what that helps me to do is then to realize that that chore that I've put on my to-do list is to do something that helps me relax. So I'm purposefully putting myself through hours and hours of chore, of something I hate doing, in order to feel more relaxed. How does that work? That's not a good work-life balance. Like, that's not a good idea for relaxing myself. So instead, I just select all and I archive all. And they're still there. I can still search and find stuff if I need to, but I take out hours of being stressed and start to be relaxed right away. So one of the things I wanted to talk about right off the bat is pick something that is a chore and get it off your list immediately, and then you'll get to do something more creative and fun with your resolutions.
It's interesting you say that. There's a number of different conversation pieces just there that you shared with us that I want you to expound on. How do you feel as we're coming to the end of 2014 that men are handling work-life balance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of it is we strive to be the man at work, and then when we come home, we want to relax and just be the guy at home, right? And there's sort of this difference in identity, right? There's the corporate identity, the guy you are at work, and then there's hopefully the person who's more you at home. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're more you at work. And I think part of the work-life balance that's tricky for men is, being the leader at home in a lot of ways, and oftentimes being forced to follow at work. I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur, so I get to lead myself at home, and or at work and at home. And so one of the things that's challenging for me in work-life balance is finding time to get out of my office is right here, and my bedroom is right over there. So one of the challenging things for me is to find a way to rejuvenate myself by getting out of my space, right? Find my own oasis, find my time to get back into who I am at my best.
Right. Okay. But no, let's look at the opposite end of the spectrum. What about men who don't have employment?
Yeah, that's even trickier. I've been through that, and I feel for that in a big way. One of the things I talk to guys a lot about is feeling your intrinsic goodness. And that means you don't have to conditionally be doing anything in order to be good. I believe the Good Men Project is an incredible project because of that word good, and we're striving to define what that means. And I think a lot of what we keep coming across in these conversations is that good men does not necessarily mean conditionally good men. Maybe it's time that we start being a little more unconditional with our love toward our boys and towards the men as we raise ourselves. So I think part of the unemployment conundrum is learning to believe that you are intrinsically good and coming to that love of yourself first before you start setting intentions and goals for your next job move, your next career move. Does any career move that comes out of self-doubt or hell, self-loathing or fear, any career move that comes out of that place is going to be something pretty challenging probably. And if you can start from, even if it feels uncomfortable at first, you can start from a feeling of, boy, I really believe in myself and I have a lot of great skills and I have the ability to be an incredible team member. You start from that actual belief deep down. What you manifest for yourself into your life is a team setting where people appreciate you for your skills, and you start to sort of create the world around you. So I think people in unemployment, guys and ladies and gentlemen, can learn the same thing from that, which is believing in yourself, starting with why. Why do I believe in myself, and why am I here? And go from that. I think it'll help in all the situations with career and with work and life balance, and with a lot of things, really, with relationships. It all starts from there.
Just the word these days, balance in itself, is such a large word. Do you not think that these days?
Yeah, it's funny. We were supposed to be able to, with this thing, be more balanced. Like we were supposed to free up all of our time, and this would make life so much easier. And what's interesting is I think we are more efficient. We're just doing even more, and it's that spread outness that can get us all feeling a little frayed.
True.
Right? So if I'm a thread and you keep pulling me in different directions, I get stretched too thin, and sometimes I end up fraying. And I think guys, I think we have a tough time with that because we don't have as much access to the guys around us we want. I mean, we think we're well connected because we're texting and Facebooking with each other, but getting one-on-one or in a group context with guys who you trust to hold you accountable to yourself, I think that helps you find the balance. It helped me for sure. Without my men's group, which I meet with every Sunday, we go on a hike here in LA. Without that group, I think it would be really hard for me to be able to see myself and to be able to see what it is I'm doing with my life.
So we're really getting some good stuff here. So I really want to continue on this, and it's only going to go uphill in a good no, in a good way, because we're just raising the bar higher of our conversation. Yes. Do you have some tangible suggestions on how men can get that work-life balance?
Yeah. One of the things I do with my guys is I have them, this sounds silly, but take your schedule for your week, put it into an Excel spreadsheet. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and color code all the times that you're doing things. So the blocks of time that you're at work is a color, maybe it's red, and the blocks that you're asleep is maybe blue. And everything in between, all the appointments you have, all the little things that are sort of general to your week, put those in your calendar and color code them. And whenever I have guys do that, the practical thing that comes from it is you see visually how much time you have that you're not using, and maybe to rejuvenate yourself, or maybe it's to see your kids more, or maybe it's to whatever it is you want to do. You see the holes in your calendar for the first time, and then you start to see how much time you are spending at work, and that's shocking for men a lot of times. So I had a guy do this past, was it 2 weeks ago, and there was so much red on his calendar that he was like, wow, now I know why I'm not getting enough sleep, and why I'm not eating right, and why I'm not getting enough exercise, and why my girlfriend is like, where are you? So I think one of the easiest things to do is to become time aware of where we are putting our energy, because you don't get any more of that. There's no way to grow the amount of time you get.
So, that's true. One of the regular contributors to the Dr. Vibe show was a gentleman named Henri Morris, and I remember one of the first things he said when he was on one of my shows was a great quote, and I use it all the time because he gives me permission, is time never lost a fight.
Yeah, that's true.
And when he said that, it just resonates. So whenever I get the opportunity to share that quote, I drop it because it's so true. And what you just said just piggybacks on that quote.
We have choices with our time. We think we don't, but we do have choices with time. Time doesn't always it doesn't always bully us. Sometimes it works as a partner. And I think, like I had this guy who did his map of his week. I call it the map of your week. And he realized he was commuting for like hours a day. And I asked him if, and he thought, well, boy, all this red I'm at work, all this yellow I'm commuting, that's all of my time. What am I going to do? How am I going to find any more time in my week? And I asked him, so how can we get creative about the red and the yellow? That seems like stuck in stone. And he found out that his office, his company, had an office closer to where he lived. And they were okay with him working twice a week from that office.
Wonderful.
Unbelievable. So he got like 4 or 6 hours a week back because he got creative. So time is possible to manipulate. It definitely wins in the end. Yeah. But I think if you're aware of it as a man, especially going through this life where you're being pulled in so many directions, if you're aware of where your time is at, you could find a way to get creative with it.
Good stuff. Well, let's move on to your next point in your article. Create or destroy. You didn't think we'd get so much time, but there's so many. We could peel back layers, but I'm going to move on to create or destroy. What do you have to share with our audience about it?
Well, I talk about the dry well syndrome. So at the end of the year, and sometimes earlier, we get pulled in all these different directions, and you're constantly giving, you're constantly giving, you're constantly giving, and at some point that well can run dry. And when that well runs dry, what you start giving is destruction. You can destroy all these awesome things you've built, the great relationships you have, all that hard-fought success at work, all the accomplishments, all the stability. You can start to accidentally become your worst enemy. And so what I talk about is replenishing that dry well with creativity, creative or destroying, create or destroy. You have to sort of choose. And the more creative you are, the more that well seems to rejuvenate. And you know how this feels if you've ever been like, man, I am run down. I look around and I realize I'm driving to work stressed. I'm getting home tired. I'm barely eating. If anything, it's fast food. I get pulled in all these ways. I'm really destroying my body. This isn't good. What if I were to figure out a way to get creative, even with your time or with what you're doing with your free time? So a lot of guys will come home, plop down, hit the TV, and just watch what's on, right? But what if instead you picked up the phone, called your buddies, and like I said in this one, maybe you create a dart tournament for your friends on Friday night instead of going out and doing what you normally do. It's about being creative, because if you let that well run dry, you will just start destroying everything around you. And it's sometimes when we realize it, it's too late. Like you've already messed a lot of stuff up, missed those appointments and missed those dates, and those are hard to recover from. And the easiest way to do that is to just get creative.
Well, Dale, let me just ask on that in regards to that conversation piece, that aren't many men raised in an environment of creation, and if it doesn't work, we got to destroy it?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with some destroying in your life, absolutely. But when the destroying is part of the creative process, that's when it's cool. Sometimes we can get creative unconsciously, and that's when you're just sort of walking around like Godzilla, stomping on all of the city of your life.
Sure. And
the difference between that and like Minecraft, where you have to destroy stuff in order to build stuff, that's cool, and there is nothing wrong with knocking over the sandcastle sometimes. I think that's part of having masculine energy running through you, having testosterone pumping through your blood. I think it's part of like you want to go and wipe the slate clean sometimes. That's where great ideas come from.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting that what do you feel is the state of creativity and manhood as we come to the end of 2014? I guess the best reference point are the men you're dealing with.
Yeah, I have been blessed. A lot of the guys in my group come in with an idea of their creative potential. What happens usually is once you clarify what you want from your life, with these guys, but it's happened across the board, is once a man clarifies what he wants with his life and is able to express it, either ask for it or go get it, his life starts to change. Because no longer are you a passenger in the ride of life, you're starting to actually create. And when I say the creative process, I don't necessarily mean artsy-fartsy with paint, right? It
Right.
can be that, and I dig on painting. I have a painting up on my wall, but it's the creative process, which to you might be creating incredible, I don't know, spreadsheets in your accounting job. It might be something that's creative to you in that respect. Creative is sort of personal. So when I think of creativity for guys, I think of it as, what is it that you love doing, that when you wake up in the morning, this is the one thing you do really well that you love doing. And a lot of times people have a hard time naming that because it's like being a fish in water. You don't realize you're in water the whole time. Your whole life, you've been doing this one thing really well, and you never really thought about it as a superpower because you just thought, well, doesn't everybody know how to do that? And the truth is, no, you're one of the few people who's really gotten into that thing you're doing and you love doing it. Like you love being Dr. Vibe. You love this, right?
Yep, absolutely.
There is no other Dr. Vibe.
Not that I know of yet.
There just isn't. And so
Right.
this is creative to me. This is extremely creative.
Sure. What do you feel are the forces preventing many men to be creative?
Mostly they're internal. I think the external forces that prevent us from being creative are, they're there and we see them, but I think a lot of those are also brought on us by internal doubt, self-doubt, and I like to say that self-doubt or fear of yourself, whether that's fear of not being good enough or fear of being good enough and having to deal with that responsibility. The fear of yourself is the one fear that all men have in common.
Sure.
So I think that's the thing that holds a lot of men back. That Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. That happens truly with creative people. If you think you are able to create something and you don't, then you have to live up to this thing that you didn't do. If you discover, like, I have this incredible ability with woodworking and I'm not using it, that doesn't feel good.
Right.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is internal.
It's interesting because one thing when anyone, male, female, comes up to me and they say, I don't know what I should do, I know what I should do. And just building on what you just shared with us, I say, what do you like to do for free? And first of all, most people, when I ask them that, they look like I'm on crack because they've never heard anyone ask that question of them before. And I say, have you ever gone to that what do you just like doing that doesn't cost you anything in your being? And
Yep.
and maybe that's what you should pursue down the road. And building on what you just said also, Reese, just a few moments ago, I said sometimes people just have to get out of their own way.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
and
I think it's Will Rogers who said, if I could kick the person in the pants most responsible for all of my problems, I wouldn't sit down for a week.
okay, I like that one. That's good. That's a money quote right there. I like that one. That is really, really good.
No, you're right. I mean, I spent 4 years leading this free men's hike, a hike for men every Sunday. Like I said, my men's group.
right.
I led it for free for 4 years, and and it's just changed people's lives, and it's changed mine, and it just keeps changing people's lives. And this year, early in the year, I sat down and I asked that very question that you just said. What is it I love to give away for free? What is it I love to do for free? And I realized that what I was doing was having an incredible impact on people's lives. And so I started asking for a small investment. It was like $50 or $100 for like a certain package of hikes. And people paid and were excited to pay. And what I found is that everybody who paid was even more committed to changing their lives. So I started to realize that the more I gave people the opportunity to commit to something, which is what we use money for, the better their lives became. And so now I have programs where people pay upwards of $2,500 to work with me. And their lives change at drastic levels and very quickly. And it was then that it was this year really that I started to really understand that what I love to do is the thing I should be doing.
Isn't it interesting how when that hits you, the feeling you get?
Yeah. I never want it to stop. Every time I'm working with somebody, I think, boy, I don't want this to end. And as soon as it's over, I'm like, I can't wait for the next one.
Well, you know, and it's interesting, just a number of things again, just peeling through what you're saying and going through what you're saying. With this hiking thing, you gave men something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a question that we must ask a lot of men. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I think it's a definitive question. You know, what are you looking forward to?
And, I deal a lot with goal setting and a lot with vision setting. And we tend to get stuck in the small goals because all our lives we've been told to reach for what's possible, right? The easy goal, the goal that's gettable, the goal that you can measure and succeed in pretty quickly, and that's great. Those small wins and those goals are really important, but they're part of the picture. And I like to talk about how we need to go beyond goal setting. We need a real life vision for ourselves as men. That's what drives us. And it's that vision that gets you up in the morning. It's that vision that gets you walking every day. And the reason I say walking is I walked the Camino de Santiago, which is a 500-mile pilgrimage in Spain. And it ends in this very specific place in Santiago de Compostela. It's this cathedral. And you're supposed to walk there from all over Europe to try and get to this place. So, I mean, 500 miles, that's like 6 weeks of walking.
Yep.
Every day I got up at 6 a.m. and put on smelly boots with my blistered feet, and I put on a heavy backpack, and I would walk for 10 to 20 miles a day. And every day I got up with this vision of going to the cathedral, going to Santiago de Compostela. I'm not Catholic. I'm not really big into this whole thing, but this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm here for. That was my end goal. And it's really funny. When I got there after all that hard work, it was underwhelming. And I realized that the whole reason I was there was not to get to Santiago. It was to walk. The goal got me up in the morning. And I think that's part of what you're saying is, guys, we have to have an understanding of what our long end goal is, but we have to also live in the present. Understand that goal we've set out in front of us may never be achieved, but to get up and walk toward it every day is the important part. And if you don't have a goal, you don't get up and walk. You just get up and hang around.
And again, you've used a key word in my thought process: understanding.
Yeah.
It's a powerful word, and understanding what are you striving for, and as I share with you, I'm always thinking 2 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Always have something new. Not to say, and I celebrate, and I think it's important to celebrate the small things, not just the big things, because it's the small things that lead to the big things. So
Really?
number 3, invite help from a friend deadline. I've never heard of this terminology before, but you're going to roll with it. So do tell us what that is all about. Invite help from a friend deadline.
Okay, this is the best thing in the world. You're going to love this. So here's how it works. And I found this out 3 years ago when I decided I wanted to write a novel, right? I really wanted to write a novel. Had been on my 5-year, 10-year life plan for a long time, and I just had never gotten around to doing it. Mostly because I was scared of myself, right? Scared to sit down and see what I had. Maybe I wouldn't be good enough. So what I realized is I just need to do this thing. I just need to knock it out, even if it's not good. I just need to get it done. And so what I did is I asked all of my friends on Facebook to hold me accountable to finishing my book by a certain deadline. It's completely arbitrary. Nobody cares. But because I invited my friends, just on Facebook, like I said, invited my friends to be a part of it, they participated. So every day I would post the number of words I'd written because I wanted to get to a word goal. And what happened was, not only did I finish that book, I was able to publish it a couple months later on Amazon, and it became a bestseller. So there's this ability that your friends have to hold you accountable to what you want to do that you, the man in the mirror, just don't have. And I think that's something to take into account. Your friends want the best for you. Your friends want you to succeed. And so do you, deep down, but sometimes the self-doubt gets in the way. Your friends don't have self-doubt around you. Your friends believe in you. So you give your friends this, you tell them, like right now, I would say to my friends, I want to get this thing done by the end of the year. I wanted to finish this thing by the end of 2014. That gives me 8, 9 weeks. And so on December 31st, I'm going to send you this thing, anybody who wants to be a part of it. And anybody who likes this post or anybody who retweets this, I will send you the book I'm writing or whatever.
Right.
And those friends will be the most adamant supporters for the next 8 weeks that I will ever. I mean, you can't pay people to be that supportive.
Yeah. You mentioned in this point too how it helped you with your first public speech. Would you care to share that story?
Yeah. Yeah. So I did my first public speaking this past April, I guess. I told everybody that I wanted to have a speech booked by April. So I had a speech booked by April. I had to fly to do it. I flew to, it was at a university, and I had to speak to a fraternity about sexual assault prevention. That was one of my topics.
Right.
And I let everybody know I wanted to get this booked and I wanted to go do it. And it scared the bejesus out of me to call up fraternities, to call up people, to ask them if they, if they wanted to hear what I was selling, and I didn't have the self-belief. I didn't have the self-confidence yet. And I'm still developing some of that, to be honest. But by telling all of my friends, by telling the guys in my men's group, and by telling all of my Facebook friends that I was going to do this thing, it meant every time somebody saw me at a party or every time I went on the hike on Sundays, the guys would ask me, so how's that going? And you don't want to miss out on doing something when your guys are asking you if you're doing it.
Right.
Your pack, I have a responsibility. Men have responsibilities to their packs. So.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I think also too men have a responsibility to themselves.
Absolutely. But that responsibility to myself, I can put that off for another day. My responsibility to my pack, if it has a deadline, I can't put that off.
Would you also say that on not only responsibility, but the word commitment is important too?
Yeah, commitment, accountability, partnership. I think a lot of it is that you would call a men's group a support group because they're supporting you. I like to think of my group as the accountability circle in my life. These are guys who they have my back anywhere I turn, and every time I tell them I want to do something, they hold me to what I say I want to do. They're not telling me what they want me to do, and I'm not telling any guys in my group what I want them to do. I'm holding guys accountable to their own greatness.
Stuff. Well, you've wrote an article about the 3 tips to resolve those 2014 resolutions before the holidays. As we're coming to a close to 2014, because we may or may not have you back on the show before the end of the year, what are your thoughts on the state of manhood as we come to the end of 2014?
Oh boy, I have mixed feelings about what's going on in the world right now. And on the one hand, I think and I will stand by this, I think there are more good men now than there ever have been in the history of the world. I think that's because of the incredible amount of information that we now have about what it means to be a good man, thanks to places like the Good Men Project. I think that's because we are able to actually meet and converse about this stuff in plain view without being ridiculed like I think it has been before. I mean, a lot of the secret societies that exist in the past and now today come from the fact that we used to have to hide what it meant to be a good man. You used to have to achieve it. And now I think we expect it. I think that changes things. On the other hand, I think there's some change going on with how we view women and how we understand how we fit with women and how we understand, I think on a macro level, how we interact as separate genders and sexes. And I mean that across the LGBTQ spectrum.
Right.
So I think we are in a stage now where we have more good men than there ever have been in the history of the world, but there is still an identity crisis of malehood going on.
Would you
And
like to, I want you to expound on that term, identity crisis of manhood. What do you mean by that?
I think there will be more of a reaction, and this is just me being predictive, but I believe there will be more reaction to what we're doing at the Good Men Project from areas where, and I have felt this myself, from areas where men think we are encroaching on traditional masculinity. When in truth, and this is the truth, masculinity is a cultural reference point. Every time you change culture, every microculture you shift, the definition of what it means to be a man shifts. And that means we're not talking about one masculinity. We're talking about plural masculinities. We're talking about everybody who's out there who lives in a different culture than I do has a different concept of what it means to be a man. None of them are particularly wrong. Some of them are probably even better than what I know. I'm just not aware of them.
Right.
But I think we're going to have to get away from the judgment of, is it positive or is it negative, and start to go, what's healthiest? What's the healthiest for the man? What's the healthiest for the women in that environment? What's the healthiest for the children in that environment? And we're starting to see that. I mean, I think in sports specifically, we're having more conversation about that, about the virtues of manhood in an open way than we've ever had before. I think some of it is really challenging when you see somebody like Ray Rice do his deal, and you go, boy, that doesn't look right, and that doesn't sound right. And then you also hear, but then at the same time, you hear a lot of people on ESPN saying, boy, that wasn't right. And that's the first time ESPN has had people standing up and saying domestic violence is wrong, openly. So that whole idea of manhood is shifting in our media, and that's a big deal. That's a big, big deal. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I was on CNN debating what was going on with the Duke lacrosse rape scandal.
Right.
And I got a lot of hate mail. In fact, I got death threats because I suggested that the two guys who were in question and in custody and defending themselves weren't the ones we needed to talk about. The ones we need to talk about are the other 20 guys who were at that party. In other words, everybody else who's in the locker room, everybody else who's around the guys, because we as men influence each other. And if there are, as I said, more good men than we've ever had before, then there was probably one at least good man in that group. And we need that guy to be more vocal. And the more vocal that guy is, the better the world is going to be.
Well put. Well, I think on those closing comments, I think we're going to end off our conversation. Dale, thanks so much for sharing with us this evening.
Yeah, we solved some of the world's crisis tonight.
As I say, yard by yard, too hard, inch by inch, it's a cinch.
All right, I like it. Thank you. Thank you.
How can people get in contact with you?
So find me at empowermentorship.com. That's empowerment mentorship. Empowermentorship.com. And like I said, I'm doing a call next Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific time for specifically women. If you want to know how to help your man without feeling like a nag, I will be talking to you live for an hour. I've got some special guests. I'm going to take your questions. This is something I've never done before, but I feel like it's necessary.
Hey, well, sometimes you just got to jump off a cliff and grow your wings on the way down, right?
When people ask me for help, I can't say no.
Good stuff. Well, it's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the Dr. Vibe Show. I'm also the host and co-producer of the Good Men Project show on the Good Men Project, where you can find Dale and myself, one of the most viewed sites in the world for men. Actually, Dale, before we came on, you dropped some stats about the Good Men Project. Tell people about how much it's viewed.
Yeah, so we regularly rival Oprah.com, Politico.com, and LATimes.com in users per week.
There you go. So I think you may want to check it out. There's a few people checking it out, and be one of them. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles and your solution for someone's problem. God bless, peace be well, and keep the faith. And take care, and we'll chat with you soon. Bye-bye. There's the trophy.